Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Olchefske. I'm your moderator for tonight. Thank you for coming. We have a number of people on the call, really wonderful attendance tonight. We did have an earlier call this morning as well, so it's really great. I want to welcome you all to this session on becoming a champion for after-school activities. And we're going to take about, 30, 45 minutes to discuss, but also lots of time for Q&A. And I encourage you to ask questions. I will prompt you maybe in about 20 minutes or so for your questions. But certainly don't hesitate. We want this to be interactive. We do have a fair number of people on the call, but certainly feel free to chime in as we progress. So we're joined tonight. Let me introduce myself. As I said, I'm Joseph Olchefske. I'm the moderator tonight. My day job is as president of Calvert Education Services, and I also serve as the chair of the board of the Education Industry Association, which is a national association for education entrepreneurs. So I'm very familiar with these issues of after-school programming and companies around the country that have risen up to serve the needs of students in an after-school environment. We're joined tonight by Bowden Scott from Pyle Middle School, and in particular, she's the lead coordinator at the Pyle Panther Program. Pyle is the largest middle school in Montgomery County, and it's got a long history that Bowden, I'll ask you to talk a little bit about, but I think she'll add a lot to tonight's discussion, because I know we have a number of PTA and parent representatives on this call attending. Also on the call is Joshua Chernikoff. He's the founder and CEO of Flex Academy, a member of the Education Industry Association, I'm proud to say, but also the developer of the Flex Academies idea and that service that is working with a number of schools in Montgomery County. And I'm sure Josh will have a lot to say about what he's seeing in the programs that he's running and in other schools around Montgomery County. So please join me in welcoming them. And Bowden, let me prompt you. Maybe you just want to give a minute on Pyle Middle School and your program there, just so people have a sense of your background.
Okay. Well, I am a parent volunteer at Panther Program. It has been preceded me for sure. I've been working with Panther Programs for 5 years, but it's been in existence for well over 10 years. Before Flex came in, we had about 900 students come through the program in 1 year. We have 3 sessions. And we have fee-based programs, and we have teacher-run programs, which are free. And it has grown. We've over $100,000 in fees, and obviously it's a very, very pivotal part of the Pyle community.
Thanks, Bowden. And Josh, I know you've been really the driver of Flex Academies, but also a leader in the whole national movement around after-school programming. So do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Flex?
Yeah, absolutely, Joseph. Flex Academy started actually after I did some work through our tutoring company in a school in Montgomery County and a couple schools, and we were asked to do some after-school programming, and I saw the chaos and the burnout that was associated with after-school programs, and began to kind of see an opportunity to work with the PTA, help the administrations, and then also kind of step up the quality and the engagement of these kids, and I think we've been able to do that. We're working with 10 schools this year, and so I'm very proud of Flex Academies and the work. And today I was actually out at one of our schools, and there was cooking going on, all the way from cooking to street hockey, and they were just having a blast. You could tell they were learning, and most importantly, and I know you can relate to this, Joseph, as a parent, the kids were safe. The kids were absolutely safe. They got to where they needed to be. The vendors were on time. And so that's kind of the gist of Flex Academies. And through that, we've learned a lot about after-school programs, and I think we can hopefully help some of the people listening just improve their own programs.
Well, let's talk about that. In a previous lifetime, I served as superintendent of Seattle schools, and we had a lot of schools around the city who wanted to have after-school programs, and we all know there's this gap between sort of the school bell and the dinner bell when kids are being kids. And what's the kind of motivation? I want to ask this of both of you, both Josh and Bowden. What's the kind of motivation you're seeing out there, both from the PTAs, from the parents, and also from the schools themselves? What are you seeing in terms of their interest in after-school program? I know there's tutoring programs, I know there's aftercare programs, but you're really talking about something different here, aren't you, Josh?
There's obviously aftercare in our area, and there's some really strong groups that do aftercare. Bar T would be one, Kids Co. I think they do something a little bit different than what we're doing and what the parents who come to us and the schools who come to us are looking for. We consider our work as mainly enrichment. I mean, it is a focused hour on an activity, whether it be engineering. Again, we had ice hockey or street hockey today, making web designs or apps. So there's that kind of difference. Not that there's anything wrong at all, obviously, with aftercare, but we have a different beast that we're kind of tackle there, and that's in terms of enrichment. And what we also provide and what our parents absolutely come to us asking for, so do the PTAs. They want to see safe programs. They want to make sure that the insurance liability is taken care of. They want to make sure the programs are quality. And they want that convenience factor, too. I mean, let's face it, everybody around here seems to be extremely busy. So the fact that our activities are on campus, on site, and reasonably priced is something that the schools look for. And I think that is something that any after-school program in this area to be successful needs to have. They need to be convenient. They need to be quality. They need to be absolutely safe for the kids.
So, Bowden, let me ask you sort of the parallel question. I mean, you've obviously run a program that's been around, as you said, long before you, and been around for a long time, and truly a generation or two of parents and kids have come through the program. What do you see as the big motivation? What drives parents? What drives the kids to come to these after-school enrichment programs?
Well, we certainly have a history, so people entering our school have heard of the Panther Program, and we have a vast array of classes to offer which are different and academic enriched. And, there are a lot of kids that are not making the soccer team or are not playing rec basketball or are not able to take, a violin class or whatever that a lot of kids in this area are doing. So this provides something for these kids to do and get excited about and get exposure to. And the fact that, like Josh said, it's safe, it's very convenient, it's at the school that they are familiar with, that our administration backs us wholeheartedly. So there's teachers roaming the halls that the kids like, and it's affordable and they enjoy it.
And Bowden, what's the role of the PTA in this? How do they link to it, and and is that your primary sort of organizing body for this activity?
Actually, Panther Program has been its own governing body. I mean, we are backed by the PTA, but because we have such a long history, we kind of get to just do whatever we can because they know it's for the benefit of the student. And the administration backs us as well. We have a direct link to the principal, and he is, whatever you want to do, let's do it. We're not looking, we're not in here for making money. We're in it to provide services for our families and their kids.
Absolutely. So, Josh, what do you see when you arrive at a school? Is it really the PTA that sort of is the natural home for this type of programming?
Well, the PTA is certainly one of our partners in this. We begin to work with PTAs first. We have a survey that we provide, and I think a survey is a really great very cheap thing that a school can do to kind of learn more about their after-school programming. They can find out the needs. They can find out the desires, of some of the activities they're going to want. What's most important? Is it socialization? Is it challenging? Is what they want their kids to get out of this after-school program. And so we encourage any PTA that we engage to do our free survey. Actually, we will do that free survey for any PTA in this area or, frankly, around the country, because we're trying to learn more about schools. So the PTA is our first partner. Flex Academies and Pyle have been working together, and they brought us in to help with their after-school program. I think it's been a great partnership. Bowden is a great leader and really helps promote our activities. She's there kind of directing parents between some of their activities that are run by teachers, and those coexist obviously with our Flex activities, and Bowden also helps us select and say, you know what, let's try this activity. We want a robotics activity. I'm hearing it's going very well. So as part of our partnership, we do work closely with the PTA. And frankly, the administration, they help us get rooms, through ICB, the governing board that gets the rooms. We do all the rooms reservations for all of our schools. And so that's really one of the main roles of the administration. We need their support, but we also need them to help just kind of coordinate while we book the reservations for the rooms.
So, Josh, say more about this survey. I mean, is this a 10-minute survey? Is it a 30-minute survey? Is it online? I mean, what exactly are you asking the parents?
Yeah, so actually it's a survey that we use a tool where we are able to create a link and for each specific school, so it's actually tailored right to the school. And it is a 4 to 5 to 6 question survey, and we allow the schools to add in some different questions. Some of them wanted to ask about languages, but languages are not as important in some schools. Some of them wanted to ask about price, because price might be an issue that they want to ask parents about. So we've run this thing, actually. We've got close to 5,000 responses from all the schools that we have run this with.
5,000?
Actually, 5,000
responses? Wow.
Yeah,
you're
so we have
a lot about what parents want.
We have a very good idea of what parents want. I mean, the first thing we ask is about the activities. We ask them to rate the priorities. Again, interesting topics, friendly instructors, educational, rewarding. We ask them to, what do you consider most important in your child's after-school activities? Is it fitness? Is it art? Is it entertainment? We even ask them to, and this has always been an interesting question, we ask them to look at other after-school activities that their kids might go to, because they might have a kid in another school, and maybe we can bring in that particular vendor, because, one thing we do is we look at every single vendor, and we actually certify them for Flex Academies. So the survey gives us a good idea of what activities and vendors the parents want, and then we're able to kind of put together a schedule for them come July, and usually we can get the vendors that they want to bring in, assuming they meet our standards.
So talk about these vendors. So, Montgomery County, Fairfax County, D.C., these are big areas with lots of different organizations out there. How do you go about finding potential vendors, and then how do you vet them?
Val, do you want to talk first about how you guys used to find the vendors?
Well, we didn't really have to find them. They came to us because we were so big. But we, did background checks, fingerprinted. First and foremost, you want to make sure that they are going to take care of the children properly, and then, word of mouth. If someone had been using that vendor, going to a dance class somewhere, we wanted to know, well, what were they offering? Find out if it was something that our student body would want, and and affordability, really.
Yeah.
So I think that is, Pyle again has got this amazing program, and they ask all the good questions. So to the vendors. So I think again, what we do actually is we run an RFI, Joseph, which is a request for information. We run this RFI. We solicit information from several hundred vendors in the area, and then we receive their information. So we're able to figure out on many different levels if they are going to fit our standards and reach our standards, which, on a very basic level, first of all, they have to background check every single person who's going to come to any of our schools. We need to know their insurance liability. They have to carry a certain amount of insurance. We talk to them about their on-time arrival. I mean, do they emphasize being on time? Because the last thing we want is kids wandering around a school or being in a classroom alone. And then we talk to them about their quality of program. I mean, is the last time they updated their programming was 5 years ago? Were they constantly looking at standards and trying to, meet their programming with the standards that are necessary, especially and demanded in this area? So the RFI.
So this RFI sounds like really a great idea. You must learn a lot about. I've never heard of another after-school provider doing that sort of thing.
I'm not sure if other after-school providers are doing it. I mean, for us, it really was a game changer because it really gave us an opportunity to also go to schools and say, look at who we're working with. We have mad science. We work with overtime athletics, tiny chefs. These are some really big providers in the county, but not to say that we don't work with actually some wonderful sole proprietors. In fact, we have one that Bowden is very familiar with, who, when we came to Pyle, she was working just at Pyle, and then we were able to expand her business. Now she's in 3 different schools, and she loves it. So, as long as a vendor could be a sole proprietor, they could be mad science, national chain. As long as they meet our certification standards, we are more than happy to talk to them about being in our schools.
So do you have in mind how many different programs should be in a single school? Is it 5? Is it 7? I mean, how many different options do children get to choose from?
Our average is probably 3 to 5 a day. We run our programs on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But that doesn't mean actually we have one school that we're working with next year that we think will do probably one day of the week, and we will probably focus more on STEM-related activities because they've got the sports, they've got the arts, and so we'll focus more on STEM-related activities. It's a smaller school, but we're more than happy to try and work with them. I think for all the people who are listening, I mean, most importantly, you do a survey, whether it's our survey, you create your own, you can kind of gauge from your families the feedback that you get and see, are we looking at a robust program like a Pyle, or do we just want to do one, start off with one day a week and then we grow from there. So I think that survey, again, that jumping off point will be a really good gauge for how many activities you want to do in a day.
Bowden, can you do a little bit of a compare and contrast here? It sounds like in the past you were managing the program and the process and the vendors yourself. Now Flex has come in and is doing that. Can you do, what's changed in that process from your standpoint?
You mean why we went to Flex?
Yeah.
Well, the 2 biggest reasons were, and let me say, we went to Flex. They didn't come to us. We heard from several people that said, have you heard of this company? You should consider talking to them. And we did reach out just to get some information to see what was out there. But we heard 2 things that they could do for us. One of them was the liability. It got very risky. The PTA was getting very nervous. There had been some instances that it just was getting too risky. And they took over the liability from us, and also just manpower. I mean, that you do this job over and over, and more people, the older your children get, the less they want to, basically they're burnt out volunteering. So the job got too big for us who have jobs and have families and are volunteering our time. It just got too big, and they were able to come in and take over those responsibilities, but still provide the service that we expect and want.
So Josh, say more about this. I think Bowden made a great point about this background check and the fingerprinting and all this sort of stuff. Could you kind of go through your vetting of the vendors and how that plays itself out, and what sort of confidence that gives PTA members and schools out there?
But I think a lot of the schools that we go into have quality programs, and so that's important for us to see. And a lot of the vendors they are working with, we are working with as well. So that's usually a very good match. We want to find partners in our vendors as well. We like, as I said with that one particular sole proprietor, we like to be able to help our vendors grow their business as well. So we're able to put them in many of our schools, which helps them greatly. So, our first line of defense here is the RFI to kind of get to know them. And then we open up face-to-face conversations with the vendors that we really like. And, I can know within seconds if they're going to be a vendor that is going to uphold the quality that we demand, again, which is the safety, the insurance liability. And again, they have to be on time, and they really have to want to deliver quality programming. And when we're doing magic, when we're doing ice hockey, or street hockey, I keep calling it ice hockey. I was outside today. It should have been ice hockey. But when they're delivering these programs, they have to want to do a great job that day. And then when we do the next session, they have to have updated it. And so we talk with them. We say, okay, so what are you guys doing differently this time? So it's this kind of constant mixing it up. So the kids can do improv 1, they can do improv 2. We have a Start Your Own Business course, which is a wonderful thing for elementary age kids and middle school kids. And then we have follow-ups to that, financial literacy that they can do. And so we kind of make sure that the vendors are not there just to do, they're not just going to do one form of art. They've got several forms of art, so we can really have a productive relationship.
And what about, is there anybody on site at the school to kind of monitor these vendors? I mean, are you just leaving them to their own devices there, or how do you really have quality control to ensure, kind of day to day what's going on at the school level?
So we do have an on-site coordinator, and that's a good point and a great question, especially from a parent again. Our on-site coordinator is there at least 15 minutes before the start of the activities any day that we have activities. And the on-site coordinator first will meet any vendor that comes to the door. They will hand them that roster that has all the kids' names on it. Then the vendor will go to their room, and then the on-site coordinator turns their attention to making sure the kids get where they need to be. And whether it's a 6th grader or a 1st grader, sometimes they just could be having a rough day. The on-site coordinator is there to direct them. The on-site coordinator, though, then once the classes get going, will go pick up the rosters. They will compare their roster with the attendance from that day. And if there is if Mrs. Jones's son, Johnny, was supposed to be in yoga and he was there in school that day and he's not there in yoga, then we will pick up the phone immediately and we will call that family. And 9 times out of 10, now, actually it's always been 10 times out of 10, Johnny has been at the orthodontist or the doctor's or, he's doing something else. But the on-site coordinator is a pivotal role and one that we would not operate without. And I know that's a hard thing, I think, for schools that are just trying to run their own after-school program, because that's kind of where, Bowden can step in and talk about the burnout and, how can you ask a parent who's a volunteer to be there every single day? Right.
Well, thank you, Josh and Bowden. Let's pause there for a moment. I'm sure our audience here has a number of questions, so I'm just going to pause. We'll go to dead air for a moment, and anybody that has a question, this now would be a great time. I'll just quit talking, and anybody chime in with a question.
I have a question. For Bowden, who's running the Pyle Panther Program, do you also have teachers who offer after-school programs, and do you do that in conjunction with Flex?
Yes. Well, So before Flex came in, we had one umbrella called Panther Program, and we would have fee-based programs and teacher-run programs.
Mm-hmm.
We still have Panther Program, but Flex is in charge of all the fee-based programs, and I'm basically in charge of the teacher-run programs. And but we do offer probably 10 to 12 teacher-run programs.
Okay.
Great.
And then what
Thanks
about sports? Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Just to follow up, there are a lot of, sports organizations out there that come to the school and do things. Does Flex have those sports, or do you tend not to do the sports and let that be a separate thing?
Well, there are the sports teams at the school, which is separate, and then there are extracurricular activities. That's a whole nother after-school program, and then there's Flex. So any kind of, if someone's coming in to do lacrosse, it's going to be Flex. It's not going to be anyone else.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
Josh,
I can hop in a little bit on
Josh,
that.
give a couple examples there.
Yeah, so some of our vendors that we work with, Overtime Athletics, one-on-one basketball. We have tennis provided by the Tennis Center at College Park. So we do have, obviously, we do have sports, and we all of our vendors also carry their own insurance liability that we make sure that we see. So it's a little bit different story. I know in Montgomery County, obviously, we have the red light, green light, yellow light sports, and come in under the red light. So we're able to run the sports for the schools, and I think, I'm not sure, ma'am, if you're for middle school or an elementary school, but for the middle school, if we run a soccer program,
Mm-hmm.
We'll generally run it when the soccer team is going on for the school, because you have 60 kids trying out, and how many spaces do you have, 15 or 20? So we're able to provide a nice place for those kids who may not be the next Pele, but really do want to play sports. They want to play soccer, and they want to be social with their buddies after school. So
Mm-hmm.
we're able to provide that option.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to let somebody else ask a question.
Say that again.
Go ahead. Somebody else can ask a question. I'll hold back.
Okay. Let's create some more dead air and see if anybody else has another question.
Okay. Well, while everybody else is thinking about a question, I have another question.
Yeah, please.
When do you do this survey? Do you do it at the end of a school year in preparation for the next year? Do you do it at the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, great question. So we do the survey. We're doing surveys right now with several schools, actually, right now. What we try and do is get the survey out, sometime in April, and so that we can run it for 2 weeks, and then we can really sit down with the PTA, with the administration, if they're interested, and see if we are a good fit. And then once that survey is completed, so kind of roll into, say, May, then we start talking about the following year and almost putting together kind of a blueprint for the fall, winter, and the spring. So we work out our contract, and that would be done before everybody leaves. And then from June until July, basically, or through to the month of July, we hunker down and we create a website for your school. We create a schedule for the year for the school. And then we kind of reemerge in August, all of us, mid-August. And we have set our registration date, and then we start to promote. So that's kind of the life cycle. And then we'll start registration for our activities close to the first of the year. Pyle does a really wonderful activity where they'll have all the vendors come in, and we're very much in favor of doing that because, the kids get to see the vendors can show off their magic, they can show off mad science, whatever they're doing, chess. And so that really draws a lot of attention to it. But the survey is really important to do before everybody leaves, so that we can see if we're a good match, and really figure out for you guys, if we are not a good match, which is fine, at least we will, absolutely provide the information, and you guys your PTA can learn from the information as well.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, given the 5,000 surveys, a number that still really impresses me, given the 5,000 surveys you've done of families, of parents, what surprised you from that? What were the things that you went, I did not expect that to be the kind of outcome of this?
Yeah, good question. I mean, actually, certain schools will surprise me when, we might just find that at one school they are so interested in languages. And one of our schools, for example, Ritchie Park Elementary School, they're all about languages. And so we are always providing them with different languages. But I have thought about that before, because the one question that we ask parents again is, what is your priority? When you enroll your child in an after-school activity. And the question that comes up, the answer that comes up the most and is the most popular is socialization. A lot of our parents are really looking for more socialization for their kids. And so I think that's a really telling answer of, what they want them to be doing, which is having fun. And, after a long day at school, they take that hour and they're doing yoga, and they're finding balance there. Or we have a mindfulness for our middle schools, and they're finding balance there, or they're running around in 35-degree weather, doing street hockey. So I think it's the socialization, the getting out, the making sure they're just having a blast, because the days can be tough. And then, I know obviously from the tutoring company is that, then they go home and they've got to do their homework, and that can be stressful for everybody.
Great. Thanks. So let's take one more pause here, because I know we still have several people on the call that haven't chimed in with questions or comments or observations. So, I would be interested in hearing folks that are out there that are involved with PTAs, sort of what do you do now? If you don't have a question, let's maybe you could just comment on what you're doing today around after-school programs. So let me stop here. We'll take and we'll just create some dead air, and anybody that's interested can chime in. Okay, I think we have a quiet crowd here tonight.
It's dinner time.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, everything you said, Bowden and Josh, made complete sense. So maybe as we head towards the wrap up here, let's talk about next steps. Bowden, let me start with you. You're as someone involved in after-school programming. If somebody at another school called you and said, "Hey, it's the middle of March, and I want to do a kind of a meaningful after-school programming in my school for next school year," what would you be advising them? What would you say is the next step? How would they, how should they be thinking as they go forward?
Well, I think it's important to know what your student body wants. What kind of programs are you looking? How many people are you looking to fill in these classes? And, Pyle started with just a handful of classes that teachers ran. We didn't have any outside vendors. It was just a small number of classes. And by each year and word of mouth and the success just grew and grew. So I would say if you were looking to do this, call Josh, and also look at what your students want, and then see if there's any teachers. I mean, our teachers, we have a drama club, we have Math Matters, math club. I mean, there are things that you can debate, things that teachers could at least initiate programs, start that way, and then grow, and have Josh. I would tell them to call Josh.
Great. And Josh, taking Bowden's recommendation, how do folks get a hold of you? I know you sent out an email to a lot of folks inviting them to these calls. Where else can they find you?
Yeah, I think obviously anybody can hit reply to the emails that we've sent out. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. Obviously, some people weren't able to make the 11 or the 7 conference call today, so I've already started talking to a bunch of different schools all around the area. So my phone number is on there. We're very easy to reach as well. So I think Bowden will tell you that, as partners, we are, maybe to a fault, we're too easy to reach, but we really like what we're doing, and we really think we're doing it well. I'm very proud of what we're doing. So happy to hear from people, and happy to, whether it's Flex or whether it's not, we're happy to help schools improve their after-school programs.
Great. So Bowden and Joshua, thank you very much. Excellent comments tonight. Really fascinating hearing about your work from an EIA perspective, Education Industry Association. It's really wonderful to hear this type of impact that an entrepreneur is having in serving students here in the Montgomery County area. So fantastic work to both of you, to the participants tonight, and the woman that did ask the question. We really appreciate your participation. I think you heard both from Bowden and from Josh about next steps. So thank you very much for participating, and look forward to having you on future calls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.